One of the questions that I'm asked frequently by my students is how do you control your value changes when you are hatching and cross hatching? So I've decided to make a video to show how you can go from light to medium to dark using hatching and cross hatching techniques. Alright guys, so for this video what I'm going to be showing you is how to use hatching and cross hatching to control your values. I get this question asked quite a bit is, how do you go from light to dark when using cross hatching? So I thought I'd put a video together to kind of show you how I do it. Okay. Now what I've done already is I've taken a pencil and I've created a regular value scale. Okay. I'm not going to go over how to do this. Most of you already know how to do this. So pure white, if you're working on a white piece of paper, you leave it blank, then light, medium, dark, and then black. Okay. What I would recommend is this. Go ahead and label these as such. 0 for pure white, 1 for light gray, 2 for medium gray, 3 for dark gray, and 4 for black. And you'll see why in a minute. Okay. Now for the cross hatching for this exercise, I'm going to use the 0.8 micron, but you can use whatever you have. Ballpoint pens, fine tip Sharpies. You can even do this in pencil. Okay. So here we go. How does this work? Well, cross hatching is nothing more than a series of lines. So if I want to leave an area really, really light in cross hatching, I can think of it as a 0, which means there would be absolutely no lines. Okay. Now, if I want to make an area a little bit lighter, but not pure white, then I would use a 1, which means I go in one direction only. Now, the direction that you choose doesn't matter. I like to work diagonally. Now, so you want to kind of get these lines relatively close together and keep them parallel to each other. Don't worry about starting here and finishing here. Okay, the length of the lines is really not that critical, but you do want to keep them parallel to each other. So when you do this, I recommend that you use your whole hand, not just your wrist. So I'm moving my hand, my arm, rather than just my wrist. Don't do this because you'll curve the lines too much. Okay, so one direction, the 1 stands for one direction, is the equivalent of a light gray in pencil. Okay. For a medium gray, we're going to go in 2 different directions. So again, I'm going to start off in a diagonal. That's a choice. You don't have to. Some people like to start off horizontal. Some people like to start off vertical. I'm comfortable working in a diagonal, which means I can spin my paper to kind of get comfortable anytime I want to. Okay. Now I want to make this a little bit darker. Super easy to do. I'm going to turn my paper and then I'm going to go in with a second layer at about a 90 degree. And keeping the lines parallel to each other in this layer. Again, don't worry about the lengths of the line. Just try to keep them parallel to each other. Okay. So, as you can see with 2 layers, this one already looks a little bit darker than that one. So that's about the equivalent of a 2 on the pencil scale. And you just continue on. For the 3rd layer, I'm going to go in 3 separate directions. So, first direction. The one thing that you want to make sure that you do, because this is a common mistake, is you want to do 1 layer at a time. Don't go like one direction and then switch and go to the next direction in between. And I'll show you why in a minute. So 2nd layer, it's going to go this way. Again, try to keep them relatively parallel to each other. Don't be too concerned about the length of the lines. And I recommend that you start from the edge and work in. And the reason for that is if you start in the middle and work out and you miss the line, you're going to lose the edge. So if you start on the edges and work inward, you'll have better control. Okay. Now I need a 3rd layer. So I can either go vertical or horizontal. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and go vertical. Okay. So same thing. keeping these parallel to each other once again. So each layer is its own direction. So if you think of it, every layer change direction, you'll be fine. So this one should look a little bit darker than the one before it. And then the last one, we're going to go in all four directions. So we're going to go diagonal this way, up and down, and horizontal. But make sure that you complete each layer one at a time. Try to keep the lines relatively parallel and about the same width from each other. There are times where you'll change that, but for this exercise, try to keep them about the same width. Again, do it freehand. Don't break out a ruler. It'll look too mechanical if you do that. So just work on this freehand. Get those arms working, not just the wrist. Move your entire arm. And then the last layer for this exercise, it's going to go this way. Now, if you want to make it even darker, you can add more layers. Just remember that every time that you add a new layer, change directions. So if you add a fifth layer, you're going to have to kind of go in between these. It's kind of tricky, but it's not that hard once you get used to it. You can also put the lines a little bit closer together, and that'll also make it look a little bit darker. So I'm going to add one more layer. And no, I'm not. I'm going to leave it like that. So that's no lines, one direction, two directions, three directions, four or more.